Hello, this is Riley Bigelow, and along with Kyle Caddis and Andrew Wright. And tonight we'll be going over class responsibility collaboration designs for CS364. Tonight, the contents will cover what is a CRC, how CR was created, the details on CRC, which includes the pros and the cons, an idea of when to use CRC, an idea of when not to use CRC, how to use example, and recommendation for the class, and a helpful hint of usage in school.
So what is the CRC? So it's a collection of standard index cards that are divided into three sections. Class is a representation, or it represents a collection of similar objects. Responsibilities. It is something that a class knows or does. And collaborator is another class that a class interacts with to fulfill its responsibilities. So yeah, if you like class names on the top, responsibilities on the left, and collaborators are on the right. And so how was the CRC created? In 1982, Tektronix programmers Cunningham, Beck, and Beck created what is known today as the CRC. Instead of using diagrams, they used index cards. Instead of naming methods, they listed responsibilities. Collaborators are other classes needed to interact with to carry those out. This idea was to take a top-down approach to design.
The pros of using class responsibility collaboration are that it will help designers focus on the essentials of a class and prevent them from getting into the details and implementation aspect of the design process. It discourages giving the class too many responsibilities. The idea is that if the number of responsibilities can't fit on an index card, then you maybe need to rethink it. Cards can easily be laid out on a table and rearranged while discussing a design, and this can help you also see if there are gaps, what's missing. You might leave a space in between cards empty as you plan to make a new class in the future. We have high level of understandability. It illustrates its sections in an orderly and specific manner. The design process tends to progress from knowns to unknowns, often, because you start with what you know, and the idea is that as you visually see how everything is connected, you may see areas that don't exist that should in your design. And we have accurate identification of class elements, assure proper identification of artifacts as class and its elements, want to prevent any confusion during the class assigning process. And it can be done anywhere, doesn't require a computer. Flashcards are really cheap, and you can do that on the go. The cons are that, yes, it does lack detail and precision. We're not going for those at the moment. This is a process early on in the design phase, and we just want to see how everything's connected. This can help those with less experience and even those with a lot of experience see the whole design aspect. Cards do not explain how a class may actually work. They absolutely no procedural information, such as what sequence events are to take place. It's just the basic class responsibilities and the collaboration listed. It requires team collaboration and more time than having a senior engineer draw up a diagram of what he wants. So it depends on your schedule and your limitations. And it can blur the difference between objects and classes. And so that's something to take into consideration there.
Awesome. So an idea of when you'd want to use a CRC is useful when designs are incomplete or poorly understood. Because a CRC can, one, provide a visual for design. It can represent the collaboration, focus in clear English text, and it can describe the purpose of the class, which a class diagram does not. So it really just simplifies and gives a really high-level overview for something before you get into the technical documentation of it. And also it's beneficial in, like, as we said in the early class architecture planning stage, just because you can see what you currently have and what you may be missing. So an idea of when not to use CRC. So if you already know what exactly you want or need, then a class diagram is preferred over CRC, and this is because the class diagram is very precise as a technical blueprint, And so, yeah, if you already know, you can just go ahead straight for the documentation, but CRC is more to fill out what you need to get to, so you can recognize what may be missing or how things will connect.
Okay, so how to use the CRC? First of all, you'll need to find classes. A good rule of thumb is that you should look for 3 to 5 main classes right away. Second, you're going to find responsibilities. You should ask yourself what a class does, as well as what information you wish to maintain about it. You will often identify a responsibility for a class to fulfill collaboration with another class. Thirdly, you're going to define collaborators. A class often does not have sufficient information to fulfill its responsibilities. Therefore, it must collaborate or work with other classes to get the job done. Move the cards around. To improve everyone's understanding of the system, the cards should be placed on the table in an intelligent manner. 2 cards that collaborate with one another should be placed close together on the table. So for this next part, the project example. So the first card we have, class is a user, and there's the resource that it has, or no, the responsibilities that they have are email, password, and name. And it collaborates with items and property. So yeah, and if you look at property, the property class, it has responsibilities of name and address, as well as the collaborators of insurance and room. And I guess the big, for example, let's say, since the user has items, it's going to collaborate with that to, to make a catalog of those details.
Yeah, kind of like what Andrew was saying there. The whole idea, these were our index cards, just as a wireframe on the PowerPoint. But these could easily, say in the design phase, we could easily switch room up with items if needed to. And so you kind of get this simple idea of how it can flow together, how we can shift things around as needed to. And so that was kind of the simplest part of the CRCs is these cards can be taken and moved up at any time. There's no set place for them. And so if somewhere in the design phase something doesn't make sense, the card can be picked up, replaced, tossed, whatever it needs to happen. So.
Okay.
Awesome. So our super duper expert recommendation is that the class could and should use the CRC technique. Basically, simplicity is the genius of CRC. Smallest by nature has you focus on what matters most. Don't get bogged down in the huge details right away. Make sure you have a clear picture of the design before you start moving forward. And so uses in school. So we got one side would be students tend to get caught up in the details of what class will do and contain. So the methods and member variables, and that can cause them to get hung up a little bit. The other side is first, students often do not strictly rely on the local knowledge of objects and instead try to fulfill requests in cooperation with objects actually unknown to them or by reading their cards instead of explicitly sending a request. Second, students often fulfill responsibilities by magic, assuming their objects are somehow intelligent instead of strictly relying on the properties as written on the corresponding CRC cards or objects. And so that's just going to make sure that you know how everything's connected. Whenever you see a gap where things don't add up, you can go back to your CRC cards and visualize and make sure everything's there correctly.
Awesome, and that's our presentation for class responsibility, collaboration, and on the design technique. Thank you for watching, and until next time, guys.